etí gbọ́ ìjọba ṣé wọ́n ní etí ọba nílé etí ọba lóko èèyàn náà ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ òun náà ló jẹ́ kí ìkànnì Western Spring Television pé ètò tí ó jẹ́ kẹ́yìn ara lé ẹ̀yin ará àwùjọ kẹ́lẹ́ mọ́ sọ bí tí bàtà bá ti ń tayé lẹ́sẹ̀ fún àwọn aláṣẹ ìjọba.
Western Spring Television, ours it is.
We're back again, and it's so nice to be back once again. Good morning to you out there, and it's a pleasure to be here again. This is Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. We're super glad to know that you're there. Hope you had a beautiful weekend. And to everyone who in one way or the other, you got married over the weekend, housewarming, child, naming ceremony, in any good way, you must have celebrated something worthwhile. We'd like to say congratulations to you and welcome back to work. And work is here. We've got to do it. And this is the point where we satisfy you and we say it as it is. Morning Spring live on Western Spring Television. TUNDE IDOWU is my name, at Irresistible TD on Twitter. And as I always say, let's plug along and let's do the needful. There's quite a whole lot to talk about on Twitter and virtually everywhere. You can definitely follow us on all our social media handles as well, on Instagram, on Twitter, and also on Facebook. We are live on YouTube, and we're doing so well at Western Spring Television. Let's do it as we normally do. We'll roll things up from the dailies. We have quite a whole lot of papers I have with me here. We'll check out some of the headlines making the rounds from the dailies for this morning. And in the course of the program, very much later, we'll be having two amazing guests. We'll like to look and assess the list of commissioners sent to the State House of Assembly by Mr. Governor, the Governor right here, His Excellency Governor Ademola Adeleke. What do you make of that list? Who should have been there? Who shouldn't have been? Who should not have been there? And should they have actually had portfolios attached to their names and you know, everything associated to that list? We will look at that and assess it, dissect it, and put it together and to make this worthwhile. Let's get things started very shortly. After this break, I'll kick things up from the pages of all the dailies I have with me here. Don't go nowhere. Stay with us. All right, we're back. I'll kick things off this morning from the pages of Punch newspaper for today. The Punch newspaper, quite a whole lot is associated with that daily this morning. Let's look at the front page and the big bold, the banner headline on the pages of Punch newspaper this morning. It has to do with the ministerial appointment. You have that headline says National Assembly awaits nominees as Tinubu sends a list to DSS EFCC. Two writers is associated to that story there. Head of service reshuffle, secretaries ahead of ministers' arrival. Others, Tuesday resumption. Permanent secretary writes Bajabia Mila, Akume, security chiefs, others on redeployment. It's something that Nigerians have been waiting for. The president has been sworn in on the 29th of May, and here we are, July. Nigerians are expecting who will make this list. Are we looking at people reshuffling of same old guards, or definitely we'll be having new technocrats, people who are rearing to go? So let's keep our fingers crossed. We will see what it looks like. And just as the dailies have said that Mr. President P-Bart himself has sent the list to DSS, EFCC to do screening, scrutiny, and let's see what comes out of that list as well. Still staying with the Punch newspaper, just below that picture where you have the governor of Lagos State, and also you have the president of African Development Bank Group, Akintunde, additional Mr. Governor, Lagos State Governor, and you have Chairman, was that Grogria, the billionaire Femi Otedola, just there. There's a picture there. We'll probably look at what that story has to do this morning. But just beside that same picture, a couple of stories is associated there. Presidency, I worked against Atiku. That's credited to Fayose. And if you remember, in the course of last week, Fayose was still with Mr. President P-Bart, and he was like, look, he will never disrespect and go against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is Mr. President today, but he will criticize when he needs to criticize. So, but here he is saying against, he worked against his own presidential candidate of his own party, the PDP, then that's Atiku Abubakar. A full story, you can get it on page 20 of the Punch newspaper for today. And coming further down, a couple of other stories we still have. Adamu, NWC members on collusion cause over APC account audit. APC seems to be in the news for some reasons. I don't want to say that good about, but they've been in the news of recent for some squabbles among party members, the party chairman himself, and a couple of other, it was actually stated in the course of about 2 weeks ago, whereby the list of principal officers from the National Assembly came up, and we heard that Mr. Chairman was against candlelight, but eventually that was put to rest as after they visited Mr. President, and it was put to rest. But here we are again. Adamu NWC members on collusion cause over APC account audits. All right. Moving on, that story is actually on page 7. Then moving on, NDLEA arrests Delta church worker, seizes drugs in state. Do we carry drugs to church again? I don't know, but quite a whole lot there. That story is on page 4 and 5. And coming to the bottom strip of the same daily for today, federal government to shut online bank pestering debtors. If you're owing, be careful. They're after you. They might shut it down now. Now, the red strip on the Punch newspaper, 18 Benin Republic bound party goer, driver, motorboy die in Lagos crash. It was terrible over the weekend when we heard this story. And looking at 18 people, 18. Wow, that's really, really sad. Really, really, really sad. And I don't know. Our security apparatus, our men handling rifles. This story here is on page 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. It has the headline, Immigration Officer Shoots Protester Dead in Ologun Community. Why? It baffles me, and it baffles, as much as it baffles me, it amuses me that our security people with rifles, weren't they taught, weren't they lectured as to when to always shoot, open fire? It was a protest, and probably it was a peaceful protest, not something where there was violence. Was there a need for anyone to shoot anyone? We've seen what it looks like in developed climes, and where you have tear gas, you have water tankers spraying water all over. But here in Nigeria, it's just pathetic. It's simply pathetic and annoying, whereby all this kind of thing still emanates. Don't they get trainings as to when to engage rather than just do what they are doing. It's really, really sad. Really sad right here. Okay, moving on to the top strip of the Punch newspaper. Cost of living. More Nigerians may join Jackpot train as hardship worsens. Over a couple of weeks, we were at the Murtala Muhammed Airport in Lagos, and you needed to have been there to see what was happening. People are leaving Nigeria, even going to small Bahrain, Cook Islands, some countries whereby you never have probably dreamt of, probably want to go. But because of the state at which the country is, the hardship is worsening day by day, and government at all levels, then people are not seeing things to cushion up the effect of this hardship Nigerians are going through. So we're just enjoying our government at all levels to please find a way around this for Nigerians. It is really a terrible time, not too palatable. And Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chair, rallies members against coups. Yeah, as I was seeing this story over the weekend, I want to say, Mr. President, more feathers, more job to do, not just in Nigeria, in Africa as well. And they bestowed upon you, Chairman ECOWAS, Mr. President, more work to do, and we wish you the very best. Let's flip over quickly to the pages of Vanguard. Vanguard newspaper is next that I've got here this morning. On the pages of Vanguard newspaper, the big bold caption there says, government of ex-president must account for $5 billion Abacha loot. Let me read this right out to us. Federal High Court orders administration of ex-president Obasanjo, Yaradua, Jonathan Buhari to account for repatriated funds. Serap urges Tinubu to obey court order. Now, $5 billion US. What that will do in the economy of Nigeria if channeled properly. We accused the man in the early 90s of siphoning monies away from this country while he was head of state, and the monies were repatriated and taken away again, stolen by certain people. We just hope something drastic will be done about this and getting to the root cause of this and getting to find out who and who, what and what were this monies used for. If you have $5 billion US in circulation in the economy today, channeled into the right proportion of things, I feel the syndrome of Japa would probably reduce, if probably not eradicate, brought down, but it will definitely be reduced, and because everybody tends to get something to do. Everybody tends to have one thing, one job to be able to do, but not the fact that it has to come to this level, repatriated funds, and then probably a snake or a monkey has probably swallowed it again. These are stories Nigerians are tired of listening to. Moving forward, just as the picture there, it was on the pages of Punch newspaper, developing power for Lagos. Lagos, I don't know, just give it to them any day, anytime. It's always amazing. You have the President African Development Bank group. That's Mr. Dr. Akintunde additional, the governor of Lagos, and also German Geraga Power PLC, Safemi Otedola. Their power. Once there is power, I think most of us, while growing up, and you have quite a whole lot of companies that were in this country before now, Kingsway, Leventis, Dunlop, Michelin, quite a whole lot of them. But where are they today? They decided to leave because one of the major challenges they experienced then was the aspect of power. And if power is stable, seriously, the economy will be a better place because businesses need power. The state at which diesel is expensive, and You cannot run on diesel 24/7. But we just hope other governors and other states will take a cue from what Lagos State is doing and every other state that is attempting to do this. We wish them the very best. Moving on this morning quickly, banks in earning windfall under high interest regime. Okay, a couple of riders. Earnings from lending up 46% to 1.4 trillion naira, rises faster than loan portfolio, and loan book up 18.7%. Experts see danger of high NPL ahead. Okay, misconduct. PSC demotes CP to DCP, reduces ranks of 8 others. I actually want to give it to the new Inspector General of Police and subsequently the past Inspector General of Police. They've stood up for the rights of virtually everybody, even for the police. We saw what transpired between Afro musician, son of the Afro late fella Adekunle Kuti, Shem Kuti, there. Then when he assaulted the policeman, we saw how justice was meted. Fantastic. And this is just what we call. Now, if as a civilian we are trampled, our rights are trampled upon, yeah, we expect that the set of people, the IGP, the commissioners, the DCPs, wherever the incidents takes place, something drastic should be done. And this is what's of note, that because of misconduct, that's the Police Service Commission demotes CP to DCP. That's a slap. That's a big slap from a CP to a DCP. Now reduces ranks of 8 others. Wow, that's really, yeah. Let's just bring sanity back into the society, and it's not just amongst the members of the Nigeria Police Force. We have some fantastic sets of police officers, and I say it's fantastic. But and then there is definitely no way you see some good set of people. The bad eggs will also be there. But we give it up to them, and we'll see more to come. Now, let's see other stories making the rounds there. How Nwadokom outsmarted Ingi, Tambuwal, Aliero, Dixon, others to emerge minority leader. Remember at the National Assembly, the PDP and its own set of people are still at loggerhead, but eventually it's come out now to find out that this is the man who will be the minority leader there. Now, moving on to other stories, still on the pages of Vanguard newspaper. Lobby for juicy committees intensifies in Senate, right? And Buhari not in exile congratulates Tinubu for emerging ECOWAS chairman. That's credited to one of Buhari's aides speaking there. Page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper has full details. 200% hike in tuition fees will lead to massive student dropout. That's credited to NAT. I absolutely concur. All right. From the sporting page of the Vanguard newspaper, it's on page 31. Man United drop interest in Osimhen as PSG target him. Will you want to go to PSG? Victor Osimhen. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Now, on the top strip of the Vanguard newspaper, curfew as 12 die in fresh attacks on Plateau communities. And PIA, administrative challenges, inadequate funding, others hinders implementation. That's an editorial there. And let's go to Benue State this morning. Death toll in Ukum local government attack hits 30. Governor Alia, APC condemn bloodbath. Why do we kill ourselves? Why? That's very, very, very sad there. All right, still more. Let's move on here. The Guardian newspaper has quite a whole lot of headlines as well. Let's check them out one after the other. From the pages of the Guardian newspaper, ministerial list, 5 ex-governors, technocrats lead Tinubu's 42-man cabinet. 42-man cabinet. We will look into that. We'll keep our fingers crossed. and we'll see who emerges and who emerges real good. Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chairman, commits to democracy in sub-region. Congratulations to you, Mr. President. And Dangote congratulates the Guardian publisher on 40th anniversary. Same here. We say congratulations to the publisher of Guardian. And ECPA hired to destabilize Southeast for frustrate Kano's release to enrich self, says Ohaneze talking there. And terrorists killed 231 persons in Mangu Council. Mangu Council. 231 persons. That's sad. That is sad. That is sad. That'll be all from Guardian newspaper. Let's quickly check out Daily Trust newspaper for today here. While local rice price continues to rise, milers and farmers are talking there, and you have a couple of riders associated to that story. Blame corruption, inadequate paddy supply, poor irrigation, seek subsidy from federal government. Tinubu must wade in. That's credited to the citizens. We supported 4.57 million farmers. 4.57 million farmers. That's credited to the CBN. Where are they? What have they been doing? I'm not too sure. And other stories still there. Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chair, advocates regional counter-terrorism. 15 bodies recovered, 78 houses burnt in Plateau. That's credited to Macban. Plateau is on fire. We just hope things will be done and brought down. Sokoto butcher killed by Amotekun in Oyo. Sokoto butcher killed by Amotekun in Oyo. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no. That's really sad. The picture there speaks all about what's happening in Lagos and what have you this morning. All right, we'll take a short break right now, and we'll wait up for a couple of our guests who will be joining me very shortly. And just as I said earlier, we will definitely look at, we'll assess all the names of the commissioner designate, the commissioner nominees are sent by His Excellency the Governor of Osun State to the House of Assembly in the course of last week Friday precisely. Yes. Who are this set of people? Will they be able to deliver this set of people we need? What do you make of this set of people? We'll talk quite a lot about them in the course of this program. Please stay with us. It's still Morning Spring coming to you live from Western Spring Television. Beautiful Monday morning. Let's take it up from here. I'll be back.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission, even diffusion, vast and fast, detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
This iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Ologun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited with the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally the first story building in Nigeria, is an archival museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history.
Sports is a culture on its own. It has its own language, its own people, with their own way of life. The world of sports is never void of actions, stories, dramas, and scandals. I guess you need a sports show that can walk the walk and talk the talk.
On this show, we answer all your sporting questions. The whens, the whys, the wheres, and even the what ifs. Sports Spring is that show that will give you that new lease of life you've been looking for in sport journalism. Join me, Joseph Atewe,
And your sports Amazon, Nengi Ernest.
on this station, Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on Star Times.
Let's talk sports. Let's speak the most universal language of the world.
The 1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had ad initio created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Spring Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history. The Berlin Conference of 1884 defined the configuration of Africa, which hitherto existed as a continent of multiple kingdoms and empires under native rulers. The conference, otherwise referred to as Congo Conference, regulated European colonization and trade in Africa as initiated by German leader Otto von Bismarck. The Berlin Conference is often called the scramble for and partitioning of Africa, as each of the imperial powers carved separate portions of the continent for themselves without recourse to racial and cultural identities and differences. 137 years after the Berlin Conference was held, Africa remains a legitimized playground for European nations that sought to exploit its wealth and resources and manipulate its human capital to promote trades and investments of Western powers. Western Spring Television identifies Berlin Conference as a major event in history.
Thank you for staying with us. It's still Morning Spring right here from Western Spring Television. And at this time, let's get straight to the business of the morning, as we will be looking at what is needed, what are the things we need to do, what are the things we need to know concerning the commissioner nominees from here in Osun State. In the course of last week, His Excellency, the Governor of Osun State, sent names of 25 very amazing men and 2 women to the House of Assembly. Commissioner nominees designated to run this administration with him. And there has been reactions concerning some of the names on that list. But one thing is, we have 2 names whereby they served with the former governor Aregbesola during his time as governor right here. And also we have just 2 women. People have said, probably he doesn't have anything for the women. Some have said, look, probably in other areas, this is something we'll be asking somebody who is very close to Mr. Governor. This morning, it's a pleasure this morning to have the one we love to call him by short, ABS, Akintunde, Bello, Sherif, SSA in the making, media and communications, ABS. That's how you probably just hear me call him this morning. We are so used to the ABS. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir. My brother, it's wonderful seeing you again.
It's you. Probably from US to London to Canada. We have been waiting and watching that. ABS, are you still with us in Nigeria? Good to see you again.
We are getting the name of service to the state actually, but I've been around, my brother. I've been around. Meanwhile, I should make a clarification. I am SA Media to the governor.
SA Media to the governor.
Yes.
That's the point, and it's always nice because when you have a round peg in a round hole, it speaks volume. Congratulations, and
thank you very much.
Let's get this started this morning. I will be joined much later in the course of this program by another person, but at this point in time. Let me make do of ABS right here. Let's look at your immediate reaction as one of this administration. 25-man list has been sent to the House of Assembly. There has been that talk. Before the talk, what do you make of the 25-man list sent to the House of Assembly? You feel these are the best set of people for that the governor could assemble?
Well, thank you for having me once again. I want to say good morning to all our viewers at home, wherever this channel is reaching. I'm glad to be in the studio. Talking about the composition of the list of commissioners nominees, I think it is part of the mandate of the office of His Excellency Mr. Governor to select or appoint people who will serve in the cabinet with him, you know, to drive development agenda in the state. So therefore, what has happened is a constitutional requirement which Mr. Governor has not shied away from, to the glory of God. So that name have been submitted with the Parliament, and Mr. Speaker of the House of Assembly, the Right Honorable ANALYST, did not waste time at all, did not waste time at all to keep the state abreast. As soon as he got the list, even on our side as executive, we had also informed the public that we have sent it to the House, and the House also, with all joy and responsibility, accepted the list. Now, talking about the list, the names has been ruled out by the Speaker last Friday, and you will agree with me that yet again, His Excellency Governor Ademola Adeleke was able to tell the people that his words are his band by ensuring that he actually fulfilled one of his campaign promises of, having to use Osun resources for the good of Osun people and by the Osun people. Unlike the recent past experience in the state, whereby the other party, the rival party, the opposition party, APC, enjoys, importing people from other places to come and serve here, like we are in want of personnel. His Excellency Governor Ademola Adeleke has been able to restore normalcy by instilling confidence in the people of Osun State, I mean the sons and daughters of the state. So if you look at that list, it will show to you that the campaign promises of having to reflect local content has been fulfilled, because all these eligible and qualified 25 men and women are people that will know their background in this state, and there are people who have history in this state. So about the list is a very rich list. If you look through it, we have people who have excelled in academics, PhD holders. We have people who are professors in the list. We have people who are professionals in their various endeavors. We have remarkable people who have thrived well in politics. People who have started since the beginning of this present political evolution that started in 1999, which is the Fourth Republic. So by and large, we have not disappointed the state. We have not disappointed God. His Excellency has come up with a formidable team. And just like we have been seeing in the last 7 months or so, that His Excellency is coming out in sterling style every now and then. People can expect that we will continue to do even more now that we have a cabinet in place. Because if you look through the list, these are people that are not strange to the government. So it will not, they are required as leaders of thought to hit the ground running as soon as possible to complement the effort of His Excellency and the state government for the good of the people of Osun State. So the people have a reason to rejoice that finally, of course, there was no delay really, if you look at it, but that finally we have a cabinet that is worth it.
You made mention of that fact, and it was one of the things that I actually wanted to ask. Yeah, the list comprises of great professionals, professors, lawyers, engineers, and what have you. Now, looking at this, what kind of cabinet members are we looking forward to by the virtue of the credentials of these nominees?
Yeah, I try to touch on this very question slightly in my introductory, remark that I just made. You see, if you look at the pedigree of the people on the list, you will discover that these are people of proven record of, achievement and proven record of integrity. For example, we know fundamentally some people in that parliament, in that list, who have been chairman of local government way back, as far back as say 2007 or so, 2008. 2008 till now, my brother, if you could be chairman at that time, even people who joined politics at that time, by now, they are becoming small veterans. So if you have matured enough to become a chairman at that time, and yet you make the cabinet now, you can be sure that we are bringing on board expertise and the experience, rich experience, that the people of the state, that the state government will tap into, for the good of the people. Look at it. For example, Ayobami Ganiolaluwa was a local government chairman. Till today, after having served the government at that time, in fact, I think his own tenure predated 2008. Since that time that I served as chairman, go to Ologun local government today, his records are still speaking for him. To go to that city hall or so, look at the shopping mall just beside the city hall. That was the handiwork of Ganiolaluwa at that time. Until today, is breathing life to the city of Osogbo, making that place ornamental, really, and serving the purpose of, industry. He was a chairman of a party, of a ruling party in the state. So you cannot, you cannot underplay the kind of rich experience that kind of man is bringing on board. Look at it, Dr. Bashiru Tokunbo Salami is a PhD holder in urban and regional planning. His PhD is not just a new laurel that he just bagged. It's a PhD that has even over matured. He has done well for himself by being a local government chairman way back since 2008 with excellent record of service. No day has he been invited by anti-graft agencies since he left office. No record of crime, gentle going, easy going. Now, he served in the board of the federal government at Yobe Potiskum. You understand, he was deputy chairman of a ruling party in the state. It's a record that you cannot just dismiss.
From your view, as much as you're part of this administration, you look at this and say you have the best of hands amongst people from Osun State. Apparently,
what are we talking about? We have a professor, from the dean from Obafemi Awolowo University. As a professor, you are an authority in your field, and there is nowhere you can make assertions that people can, run away from it, as far as they know that you are speaking from the angle of knowledge. This man is in the cabinet, just like many other people like that. Kolapo Alimi is in the cabinet. He was previously in the SY cabinet. People know his mettle. People know what he can do. He's a lawyer, and people like that. People like that. A lot of people. We have Mayowa Adejoni, who was local government chairman from Obokun. Political juggernaut, give it to him. These are masters of the game. One thing is that, you see, that list has again told the people, only those who care to listen, that you cannot underrate Governor Ademola Adeleke. Because that governor is a governor that is being fed with, thought from God directly. You see, for people who are in politics, bystanders may not understand, but for people who are in politics, if you look at the aggregation of that list, it is communicating a language that I don't want to push out. But people who know politics know that you cannot underrate that governor. Because that governor is a governor that sees through tomorrow. Through God alone.
Wow.
Who is God of tomorrow.
Wow. ABS, let's be critical about this. As much as people have looked at this list and you've seen great names, just as you have reeled out their credentials as well here, there are just 2 women on that list. Are they just the only women that worked and that are capable of being a part of this administration. Why just 2?
Well, you see, people, this agitation of 2 women, I do not really believe that it is an agitation by the people of Osun State. I think it's just a murmuring by a set of few individuals who are certain that they are out of power, mostly crowding the, Ileri Oluwa Oyetola fashion of the APC. The APC is balkanized. Now, talking about the, population of women in the list, what is important is that nobody can accuse us that we did not have any woman at all. And nobody can say that, women are not represented. So fundamentally, we have women. The women food, is ably and duly represented. Now, talking about the, numbers, it can only get better. But one thing that we should explain to ourselves is that the set of, the kind of cabinet that His Excellency will run, and people will testify to this in the shortest possible time that we have going forward. The kind of cabinet that His Excellency will run is such that it will give, very substantial and full, if I may say, autonomy and independence to these people to flourish under his coordination. You understand? So we do not have, we are not having baby commissioners at all. So it is not in how many people are in the cabinet who are female. It is in the quantum or, it is in the quantum of or volume of responsibility that the governor will, put in their care. These women are not ordinary women. For example, one of them, Ayobola Awolowo of Adeyi from Ila local government. This was a woman who served as SA in the administration of Prince Ologun way back. You can imagine. Since then, he later came to serve until recently. She was the Osun representatives in the Southwest Executive of the PDP, the caretaker executive of the PDP. So she's coming with this energy of youthful identification. One, then secondly, the expertise politically is there. She has antecedent. So that kind of woman, people must expect that she will function well and she will be put in a very, very engaging ministry whereby numbers in the end will not tell, but people will see that women are playing prominent roles in the administration.
Let me just between us now, and obviously, Osun indigenes have been wondering and looking at this, that probably His Excellency, the Governor Adeleke, has other plans for women in this administration. Can you just give us a hint?
Apparently, the women played a very significant role in how we came on board as as a ruling party. And that is why, you see, the love that women and the people of Osun State generally demonstrated for the governor in particular and the PDP in general cannot be overemphasized. So there is no way such an administration will not be women or gender friendly. For example, for the first time in history, the people of Osun State is reposing their confidence in the governor 100%. We had the governorship election, won hands down. Even at the backyard of the opposition, the rival, the former governor, Isiaka Gwegwe, could not deliver more than just a local government or two from his own district of 10 local government. That is tremendous love for Governor Ademola Adeleke. And when you want to, analyze that love, you will not be able to put aside the role played by women. You understand? We had the presidential election, the candidate that Adeleke campaigned for won. That is Atiku Abubakar. All National Assembly members, 3 senators, 9 House of members. That is monumental. That was monumental, right? So the women have played their part, and the governor in turn is not taking that for granted. And that is why we are starting in the cabinet now. We have some of them represented. I can tell you that there are bigger plans again coming up very soon. The list of special advisors will be out We look forward to more patronage for our women. Very, very soon, the local government structure will be set up fully. Apparently, there will be women, because consultations are ongoing between the governor and the party. And we have a gender-friendly chairman. That's Honorable Sunday BC, very hardworking and forward-looking chairman. So the women have no cause to fear. A number of programs we have executed within the last 6-7 months that are, main drive for women participation. You understand? We have had empowerment program that that was focused on women predominantly. We are giving tools. Even when we talk about people with disability, our focus is more on those who are females among them, because women are naturally. I'm sorry if this sounds offensive, but women are vulnerable somehow, so they need extra support, which this administration will continue to give them. So things can only get better. We have done this. They must anticipate that we will do better things to make sure that their sense of belonging continues to be afloat.
Now let's look at the point at which former Governor Oyetola, during his own time as governor of this great state, ran his administration with about 35 commissioners. But His Excellency, the governor at this moment in time, Ademola Adeleke, has just sent 25 to the House of Assembly. What are we looking at? Is this an aspect whereby Governor Adeleke is trying to cut down on the cost of governance, or he could just find just 25 suitable names as commissioners?
Well, you can be sure that Osun is not in want of personnel. Even if you wanted 100, the governor will be able to extract 100. A party like PDP that is very acceptable across board, way back, there is no unit you get to that you cannot find competent and eligible people. So these 25 are just lucky. There are many more out there who are as competent and qualified, but their own time is also coming, sooner. Now, talking to the point that I want to catch up again now. You spoke.
Former Governor Oyetola had 35.
Okay. Talking about
now cost of government.
Cutting costs. Well, what I can tell you is that we have a thinking governor in place, and the team of our top leaders, talk about the chief of staff, a veteran to the core, talk about the SST, cosmopolitan, and knowledge-based personality. You see, they will not take an action that will come to see whether it was necessary in the first place. So they took their time. The state government took its time, and the ruling party leadership took its time to come up with this 25. I can tell you that beyond the cutting cost, of course, we are not a wasteful government. We are not on a extravagant spree. So far so good. People can see. For example, a lot of things people say out there that is this governor not seeing other governors as they carry themselves in affluence, this and that? Ademola Adeleke has come to serve, and that is the hallmark of nobility. He has a noble background, a very reputable family. There is nothing in government that he wants to get or see that he has not been blessed with by God from the family background that he comes from. So, except for the fear of God, nothing is new. He's the governor who have come to serve, and he's serving, and he will continue to serve. So, after the point on cutting costs, that, like you have said, the governor, in retrospect, has studied the state. Don't forget that the APC ran the state grant. They ran the state a grant. Sorry to say. And if you want to argue that, we will tell you that on November 27, when we came on board, there was nothing. We did not inherit anything. These guys just left shabbily and never handed down any transition. They did not cooperate with us. No transition panel, nothing. So the governor took over barely on an empty grant. So it took him time to begin the cleansing procedure. He has been able to clean up, block some of the leakages and this and that. Now, by by consistent understanding of the situation of the state, the governor feels that with this 25 right set of people, what he needs is no more than 25 to drive the 5-point campaign agenda that will add as a part with the people during electioneering. So he has come up with this 25, and by God's grace, this 25 will drive his vision. And within the next 1-2 years, the difference will have been cleared that we have put the round peg inside the round hole.
All right. We'll continue our discussion very shortly. Another of my guests is here, and we'll go on a large scale. We'll take a short commercial. We'll take a break, not a commercial break. We'll take a short break. We'll be back, and we'll continue with our discussion. Please stay with us.
Jeremiah Oyeni Obafemi on March 6, 1905. Obafemi Awolowo was a prime architect of Nigeria's independence and most consummate advocate of free education and social welfare in Africa's most populous nation. Erudite politician, thinker and philosopher, Awo was fondly addressed by associates and political colleagues, brought his unique attributes to bear on governance in the defunct Western region. He administered as leader of government business and the premier between 1955 and 1958. Obafemi Awolowo's premiership witnessed pioneering in multi-sectoral policy initiatives and execution. The Western region under his administration paraded several enviable records. First television station in Africa, first real estate in Nigeria, first high-rise building in Nigeria, first modern sports stadium in Nigeria, first agricultural settlement in Nigeria, first modern civil service secretariat in Nigeria, and first industrial estate in Nigeria. His face is on 100 naira denomination as a mark of honor for his distinguished services to his country. Western Spring Television identifies Obafemi Awolowo as a major character in history. Dramatist, playwright, and icon of Yoruba thematic arts, Duro Ladipo was born December 18, 1931 in Osogbo, southwest Nigeria. His clergyman father christened him Timothy. His other names, Duro Dola, Duro Shomo, Duro Rike, reflected his personal and the circumstances that surrounded his birth. The legendary stage actor had in several public fora identified himself as one of the greatest abikus born to die in this world. Family records reveal how he was born and died 13 times. The intertwining names he bore thus lent credence to his spiritism. Duro Ladipo was one of the best known and world-acclaimed Yoruba dramatists to emerge from post-colonial Africa. His notable works, Obakoso, Obawaja, and Moremi, took him beyond Africa to several parts of the world. By the time Duro Ladipo died on 11 March 1978, the Nigeria's first cultural ambassador had acquired a towering image as an artist whose works adorned the frontage of Trenchard Hall, University of Ibadan. Western Spring Television identifies Duro Ladipo as a major character in history.
All right, here we go again. Let's continue our discussion, and it's super nice to have another of my guests seated already with us right here. Comrade Ologun, a journalist, a civil rights activist, and probably an awaiting minister. Comrade Ologun, he doesn't do his thing locally, so he probably... the last time I saw him, he wasn't this big. So let me...
I hope you are not putting me on the spot this morning.
Good to have you.
Thank you very much for having me.
ABS Akintunde, Sherif, Bello is still in the house, and the essay to the governor, Osun State Governor on Media and Communications. Thank you for joining me once again. Gentlemen, I asked, and let's just look at your assessment of the 25-man list sent to the House of Assembly by His Excellency before I think it was on Friday.
Yeah, it was officially released on
Friday. What do you make of the names on that list, the nominees?
Well, I don't know if you want us to look at just the names or you want us to holistically look at
obviously when I say
the process
names,
of the emergence.
Of course,
there is something
look
for me.
Great.
There's something for me. Whether we want to take it or not, Mr. Governor broke a law. You will recall that March 17 or thereabout, the former president of the country signed a bill into law that mandated that every elected governor and minister should in 60 days submit the list of their commissioners and ministers to the State Assembly and the National Assembly as the case may be. And even though Adeleke took over governance in November, the moment that law is signed from March, it becomes a law. So it was expected that not later than the end of May, he should have, in fulfillment of the provision of that law, submitted the list of commissioners to the House of Assembly. He failed in the fulfillment of the provision of that law. That list didn't come until July, which is some good 40 days beyond the provision of the Constitution. And I think one of the hallmark of leadership is the fulfillment of the rule of law. If you cannot fulfill the provisions of the law, then you are also making it a free-for-all in terms of what individuals within your administration or within the entire scope of the state does. Having said that, number two, for me, when the idea was mooted that 25 names were to be submitted, I was hoping that it was a joke, because we cannot continue to do things the same way it was. And Rauf Aregbesola bastardized a lot of things administratively and in terms of governance in this state. And the former governor, Adegboyega Oyetola, did not have enough guts to correct some of those mistakes, maybe because they are from the same party and because maybe the kind of brotherhood they shared. And one was going to hope that Demola Adeleke, who does not share the same patrimony of the APC with them, will have the liberty, the gut, and the wherewithal to change some of these narratives. But just like I said off here, perhaps the unsigned agreement or the unsigned alignment between Governor Adeleke and Rauf Aregbesola will also make that impossible. If you look at the trajectory of those states, this is not the kind of state that can afford such big cabinets. There's no reason why Osun State should be dancing around or should be touting the idea of 25 commissioners. I would have expected that some of these ministries should be matched together, because Aregbesola created some of them to create jobs for the boys, to create food for the boys. For example, we have in this state Ministry of Innovation or something, which Remi Omewaye was handling under Rauf Aregbesola, and then you have a Ministry of Science and Technology, you have Ministry of Education, whereas some of the duties of these ministries are duplicated within. So you would have expected, or I would have expected, like most of other reasonable Osun State persons, that look, some of these ministries should have been matched to make sure that the cabinet is not big in such a way that it can be micromanaged, because the number of commissioners you have will determine the number of visual vehicles. They also replicate their heads. They will have personal assistants, special assistants, they will have confidential secretaries, they will have parks and what have you of office. And I'm also aware, except otherwise proven, that another list is coming. If we have 25 commissioners, I'm also aware that maybe another 25 is in the offing as senior special assistants and senior special advisors and what have you. Some of them will be cabinet members, and the way you have it. So at the end of the day, you might be having as much as a cabinet of about 45, 50. For a state that is barely struggling to pay salaries and put in place infrastructure, I think it's not the way to go. Then you come to the names, which is where you started this conversation from. For me, I think there's no reason to be emotional about the names that are on that list, because for me it's a mixed bag. You don't throw a child away with the bathwater. No matter how you want to look at it, you won't say because Nalimi is from the background of the APC does not qualify to be a commissioner. You won't say that Ebi Odunlade, for whatever shenanigans or whatever anybody has said against him, does not qualify to be a commissioner in a state like Osun. There's no way you will tell me that the likes of Professor Adeleke on that list should not be a commissioner. So it's not, we should take away sentiment of political affiliations or leanings away from all of these things. So for me, it's not about the individuals that make the list. What I have issues with, having talked about the size of the cabinet, is the composition of the would-be cabinet. For God's sake, in a state where women has played prominent role, where women has shown commitment to governance, how do you have a cabinet of 25 members and you have 2 women? that is very gender insensitive in a place like Osun.
I asked ABS earlier about this, and of course, there are plans for women, just as ABS.
It's not about plan. Look, there is what we call the affirmative action.
Okay.
There is no way you can have an House of Assembly of 26 members, and there is none of them that is a female, which means even the what do you call it? The Committee on Women Affairs in the House will still be manned by a man. So how do you have a cabinet, a state assembly of 26 and there's no single woman? Then you have the top executive, the governor, the deputy governor, the chief of staff, the SSG, the deputy chief of staff. None of them is a female. Then you want to consider the cabinet, and all you could think of is 2 slots for women in the cabinet of 25. Having said that, even look at the composition and look at the influence of the youth in that cabinet. Look, people should not. I've had arguments from himself and another people that look, we have young men rather, they are not boys, that we have young men as special assistants, as senior special assistants, as CPS to speakers, all of this. All these people they are not part of the decision-making process. Those who are part of the decision-making process are those who sit in cabinet for policy review and management. So if you have a 25 list of commissioners, and only can you find 1 or 2 that are below the age of 40 or between 30 and 45 in that cabinet, where is the place of youth?
All right.
So you've cheated youth, you've cheated women. Okay. God help them.
ABS, let's look at it. I know we discussed it, and you gave me a clarification as to, I asked, why just 2 women on that platform of commissioner nominees, and looking at what Comrade Ologun has come up with, he's not satisfied with what he has said concerning the list. What do you make of that stake? Coming back to what Ologun has said, what do you make of it?
Well, jokingly and on a lighter note, I doubt if there is anything we can do that will satisfy my brother. So let us not come from the background of satisfaction. Having said that, yes. You see, AY, sorry, we are on here.
Yeah, of course I'm AY.
We're used to that. Just like I call you ABS, we all call you ABS.
Our comrade is not talking from the angle of reality. He's a non-player in the game of politics. I said you want to tell me now. Of course, you were saying the other time that perhaps he's lobbying for ministerial. So you see, for example, he was talking about the composition of women, and he tried to justify his insinuation with the reflection of the composition in the House of Assembly. Mind you, a realist will know that you don't appoint people to the House of Assembly. People come out to stand election, and there is no report that a woman has been stopped on account of her gender not to participate in the electioneering process that led to candidates emerging and winners actually coming on board. So you will understand that there is no full comprehension of the understanding of how the game works by what he has just affirmed. Having said that, you see, our cabinet list, like I told you the other time, this is I don't want to say government unusual, because some people have have in the past referenced their own time as government unusual, but this is a unique government that we have under His Excellency Demola Adeleke, where you do not have coward commissioners or baby commissioners. If we have sent a list of 25 people to the House of Assembly, people can understand that these are people that His Excellency is going to grant total autonomy to function at their best under his overall supervision and coordination. So it is not at the long run going to be, it is not going to be judged on account of how many women are there in the composition, or rather based on the enormous responsibility that they are saddled with. I know that this, for example, these women that we are talking about are not going to be less engaged in the cabinet, and time will tell. Very, very, very shortly, people will see what I mean. Now, you see, talking about His Excellency breaking a law. No, we have not broken any law. And this is another unfortunate interpretation that my brother, have to display. Yeah. Now, when you are talking about a law being assented to or something at the national level, he has forgotten that there is a domestication. People will domesticate the law in their respective stage. You don't get it. Okay. How many parliament, how many states has that law been domesticated?
That kind of law does not call for domestication.
Hold on.
It's an executive bill.
Okay, go ahead.
So, how many states has that law been domesticated, for example? How many governors have complied? For example, we know where people stand in terms of their allegiance. judging about the other side, the other party, I mean, they have governors too. How many governors has implemented this law that you want to criminalize Governor Ademola Adeleke for? If you want to tell me, reference how many governors we have in Southwest, our immediate environment, that law has been practiced. Meanwhile, Ekiti State government took over governance before us. I don't think they have a cabinet now. We came after. We are having a cabinet. So this is an applause for Governor Ademola Adeleke and the PDP. You understand? Now talking about the size. You see, when you are not in, you cannot understand what is going on inside. Like I said, we practically inherited a grander state from the former governor because they did not hand over anything to us. So, His Excellency,
inherited money.
His Excellency Governor Ademola Adeleke had to come on board to start cleaning up the mess, the orgy of mess that Oyetola left behind, because there was no transition. It didn't cooperate like electoral loss is the end of life, which is not. So we had to come on board and start cleaning up and start building the process. So in the process, His Excellency has internalized. And he discovered that for him to be able to drive his 5-point agenda, we have a cardinal campaign agenda that was our part with the people of Osun State, which we abandoned and mandated to implement with the fear of God. So while internalizing, he discovered that it will need no less than this 25. And I can tell you that when we are saying 25, it is not just 25 plain meat. These are 25 serious cabinet members that will take up development issues that will drive the vision and the agenda of the governor for the good of the state. So talking about the size, I do not think the state, for example, Osun State, has not complained that she cannot meet up with its financial obligations. For example, last month we paid our salary 26th of June. Except Comrade is having his data from another planet to suggest that this is a struggling administration that cannot meet up with its obligation.
I believe in the last couple of months that this administration has come up, salaries has been paid as well.
Of course, we are not holding any staff any trouble, and we have started paying the areas that the APC administration could not pay. And of course, cooperative deductions for 4 months or 5 months or so that Oyetola even eloped with, Ademola Adeleke has paid. The cooperative deduction, workers know this fact, and this is why they are very supportive of our administration. They are in love with the governor, and the governor cannot afford to let them down. Right. So by and large, we have a cabinet of rich personality, rich background in terms of experience and expertise. I pointed out before he came in that we have people who served as local government chairman, for example, at the foundation of this 4th Republic in 1999 or thereabouts. Gani Olaluwa is on that list. He was local government chairman in Olonda.
A man that had a child before.
No. You see, let us stop this.
Well, that's the fact. That is the fact.
This man you are talking about today is a master's degree. He's a master's degree holder. You understand? So I doubt if many of us that are complaining about him even have more than what he has, except we have something that are equivalent to what he has. So the point I'm trying to make is that Gani Olaluwa, for example, as a local government chairman in Olonda, he put up an edifice over there, just beside the city hall. That's the mall. That mall is breathing life to the ornamental lifestyle of that area, and it beautifies the city of Osogbo today, promoting their economy, elevating the cost of industry. So for that kind of man to have that kind of orientation way back, you cannot dismiss him today being on a list. He was a chairman of a ruling party in Nigeria who delivered. So he's coming up with a broad band of knowledge and expertise, especially politically, that the state can tap into for its greatness. We have professors, we have PhD holders, we have people who have assisted.
We analyze this together.
I did it, but I'm trying to do
I was clear about the personalities in the cabinet.
Yes. So the governor, talking about law, we have not broken any law, really, as far as we are concerned. And you see, and talking about the size, so far so good, 6-7 months. Even the greatest traducer of Mr. Governor will admit that Demola Adeleke has come to change the perception about him with all the energy that His Excellency is exhibiting.
Thank you, ABS. Ologun, I know that I wish you were around on Saturday, but let's look at the size of the cabinet once again. 25 compared to Oyetola. During Oyetola's period, it was about 35-man commissioner list. And I asked ABS at that point in time that probably a good move, 25-man commissioner list sent thus far.
Minus special advisors.
We don't know the numbers yet. We are waiting as well. But the 25 so far, we have about 15 ministries. How do you think Mr. Governor intends to put everybody inside a particular ministry, to head a particular ministry and to do the needful? If we are having 15 ministries here in our dear state, and we're having 25 commissioners, does he intend probably? I'm coming back to ask ABS probably because he's in the house with the governor. Does he intend creating more ministries so that they can fill up that gap?
No, I think it is important that we clarify this without ambiguity. That the 25 list man are not all going to be commissioners. It is list of commissioners and special advisors. There are some special advisors that are cabinet members by the virtue of the position that they occupy. So the 25 is not going to be an entirely appointed commissioner. Some of them will be special advisor on this, special advisor on that, and yet they will sit in cabinet for policy deliberations and what have you. Of course, if you have a commissioner for it, you're still going to have a special advisor on health. You can have a commissioner for education and still have a special advisor on education who are going to be cabinet members. So that much is clear. But let me try and clarify some ambiguity that ABS does not seem to understand. There's a difference between women inclusion in governance and women place in politics. When you are having your primaries of the party, it's not just about PDP, even the APC. In an ideal situation where women have been crying for justification and have been crying for the domestication of, I've forgotten what that bill is now, you are supposed to assign unambiguous place for women in governance. That is what we call inclusion. For example, if you are saying, okay, for 30 local governments that we have in the state, in the choice of House of Assembly member, 26 House of Assembly member, 4 or 5 of them or 6 or 7 of them should be females. In such a way that you are sure that those who are contesting with them in the local government are not going to be other than women. That is what we call women inclusion. Not when we say, oh, everybody go to the feed, whether APC or PDP, go to the feed. Whoever emerges is the winner. When you know that women are disadvantaged when it comes to political contest with their male counterparts, that is the issue of the issue I'm talking about women. So you cannot pretend to say that because it's House of Assembly, it is free for all. It's about contest of the primaries. So because women didn't win, that's why they didn't into the assembly. No, that is not the place of inclusion. But even as at that, leave House of Assembly alone. I still insist that limitation of 2 women in a list of 25 is lack of good representation for the women, especially knowing fully well the role that women play in governance. This one is not about context now. This is about choice. Are you saying that in those positions that you have decided to put men, there are not women that also have similar or better qualification to have made that list? Of course, you cannot argue it. So the best you are likely going to give to women is going to be second fiddle positions, because you cannot be a man as a commissioner, even if your peer is a woman or your whatever is a woman, you still do not sit in cabinet for policy deliberations and policy decisions. So which means women are not given inclusion in that governance. And I want us to also not forget that it's not just about women. The place of youth is not also guaranteed in that cabinet of 25. I cannot find a single person in that list that is less than 40 or between the age of 35 and 45 in that list. So what happens to the youth of the state in the inclusion in that list? And having said that, you talk about he talked about not breaking the law, and I think I corrected him while the program was ongoing. The bill that provided for list of commissioners and ministers to be submitted to the State Assembly and National Assembly is not a product of the National Assembly. It's an executive bill. And you should know that any bill that is an executive bill takes preeminence over ideas or opinions of State House of Assembly. It does not call for domestication. That is why it does not require the signature of a state governor to make it a law. The moment the president signs, it becomes a law. if it signs at 11 p.m., anything done 5 minutes after that 11 p.m. against the provision of that law is breaking the law. And if you are saying other states have not done it, I can tell you that between May 29, Abia State has submitted the list of its commissioners. Rivers State has submitted the list of commissioners. I can go on and on.
I spoke on our immediate environment. Even your Lagos,
environment.
Lagos State, where President Tinubu comes from, has not been able to.
That means you are not aware. As at this morning, a list has been transmitted to the State House of Assembly in Lagos of the supposed commissioners of Babajide Sanwo-Olu, except you are not aware. And it's still within the province of the law. They still have 20 days. Before 60 days will complete by the provision of the law is 60 days. So they have only spent 40 days in office between May 29 and today. So they still have 20 days to submit that list. You have been in government from November. So let's even assume you had court cases, you have tribunal issues, and the law is signed in May. A forward-looking government will know that, look, this law has been signed, it has become a law in March. So your think tank should know that, look, from the day the president have signed this, we have 60 days. So if you count 60 days from the day that law is signed, Ademola Adeleke has broken a law because it is over 60 days between the provision of the day that bill was signed into law and now that you are submitting the list. So you don't compare yourself to somebody who took over in May 29 because that law is in retrospect in your administration. We should not be biased in our interpretation of what suits our fantasy. You understand? For example, I have told you here that the Ekiti State government was in place before we came on board. You judge evil by evil because somebody didn't do rightly. You shouldn't do rightly. Is that how wrong?
Fair is fair.
There's no fairness in that. You don't because somebody is doing evil. You don't compete yourself with evil. You compete yourself with those who are doing what the law is saying.
Because as of this morning now, you are not coming here to challenge the governor that he didn't have a cabinet in place, you know, that he didn't have a list in place. We have already done that, and we did not wait on anybody to tell us before we knew it was essential for us to send in the list. So what we have come to is to review. That means the governor is thinking in the right order that he needed this thing, and this thing must be done. So he's not waiting for anybody to remind him, you know, so to say.
It's about what's wanted. It's about the law.
And we must also put you know, situation in perspective that talking about women again, you see, our orientation politically has to be sharpened the way we sharpen other areas of our living. You understand? For example, you do not give autocratic orders in democracy. Democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And the you know, wishes of the majority, you know, will always come to play. Because like you are talking the other time, with profound respect, I don't want to say ignorance, but you cannot dictate to people that, okay, you want to hold election, so this local government should be reserved exclusively.
It is called affirmative system.
Listen.
In Kenya, for example, even though they are not in democracy, it is clear.
What we are talking about is that as a government and as a PDP, we have not disenfranchised and we have not discriminated against anyone based on gender status, that because you are a female you cannot do this. And you see, we have started somewhere. I wouldn't know how many female were in the cabinet of the immediate past governor Isiaka Oyetola, but what we are telling us at this morning is that nobody is saying that we do not have a female at all. It's not, listen, sir. We are not even talking about having one female on that list. We have more than one. So we have females in the cabinet that we have two females. We have females in the cabinet, and these are females that will not be tasked with a lesser responsibility. I'm talking from an angle of information, which I am not, you know, empowered to lay bare at this level until it happens. So these are, at the long run, the women vote will be so proud that the agenda is being trusted with anyone's, you know, responsibility. And I tell you that it will encourage other women out there to come and participate. Obviously. So what we should be talking about actually is for us to increase awareness for women to participate in politics. By the time you have women coming up participating, I mean, we will be improving day by day. But we have started, and we have started well, and we are going to sustain that. Meanwhile, as a government, you and I know that the government is, you know, enabled and has the wherewithal to engage people in terms of, you know, productive patronage. So what do I mean is that
there are a lot of other appointments that will be coming up,
obviously.
And they will definitely make sure that the women fold continues to get relevance in our system.
Let me ask ABS. Are you aware what is called the affirmative action of women included in government?
Where is the place
of affirmative action in your appointment?
You are trying to insult the power of the anchor now.
ABS, I'd like to thank you most sincerely because at this point in time we need to move on. There's something else I will take Ologun on here. It's a pleasure having the SA Media and Communications to the Governor of Osun State, Akintunde, Bello, Sherif, the one we love to call ABS. Thank you always for your insightful analysis. Always.
My pleasure.
We're still coming back, and when I return, we'll have cause to do some other things on the show this morning. Please don't go nowhere. Stay with us.
Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was an educationist and advocate of women's rights. She was recognized for her vitriolic comments against colonial policy of taxation as it affected the Nigerian women. Bere, as fondly addressed by her women followers, Fumilayo championed the initiation of universal adult suffrage, which gave an unprecedented leeway for women to contest elective offices and power to exercise voting rights. Married to a foremost educationist and teacher, Israel Oladotun Ransom Kuti, the first president of Nigeria Union of Teachers, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti was the mother of children who inherited her spirit of activism. Olufela and Be Ololari, the former, a renowned musical legend. She was the first female student of Abeokuta Grammar School and the first female to own and drive a car in Nigeria. The award recipient of Member of Order of Nigeria MON and Lenin Peace Prize, was born on 25th October 1900 and was killed on the 13th April 1978 by rampaging road soldiers in Lagos. Western Spring Television identifies Fumilayo Ransom Kuti as a watershed character in history. Hilas Olayinka Herbert Macaulay, politician, nationalist and journalist, was the first Nigerian to qualify as a civil engineer, surveyor and architect. Born on November 14, 1864, Herbert Macaulay was the founder of Nigeria's National Democratic Party, the first political party in pre-independent Nigeria. Scholars of Nigeria's political history describe Herbert Macaulay as the intellectual bulldog of 19th century Nigerian nationalist movement, in deference to his qualities as founder and leader of two foremost political parties, Nigeria National Democratic Party (NNDP) and the National Council of Nigerian Citizens (NCNC). His matchless versatility in party organization and control kept the British colonialists on their toes in the entire span of his active life. After his death on 7th May 1946, Herbert Macaulay remains a hero of his country, which recognized his anti-colonial struggles. Today, Nigeria's 10 naira coin bears his oval face and trademark mustache. Western Spring Television identifies Herbert Macaulay as a major character in history.
All right, thank you for being there, and here we are again. As we gradually coast home on the show, Morning Spring this morning, I am being joined on set again by the proprietor of Icon University, a man who is actually filled with intellect. He's not a politician. I don't know. I don't know where to really place Ologun. It's a pleasure to have Alhaji Ibrahim Adeoti in the house. Good morning to you, sir, and thank you for joining me. Thank you. Gentlemen, here we go. We have been assessing the 25-man commissioner nominees sent to the House of Assembly by the governor of Osun State here. We've discussed quite a whole lot before. Laju was actually somewhere in the building, and he must have followed us. But one thing I want us to look at here is there are two names amongst the great names that we have who actually had worked with former Governor Aregbesola, Kolakwa Alimi, Honorable B. Odunlade. Gentlemen, does this show to the point that there was a working relationship between Governor Adeleke and Aregbesola at that period in time? Let me start with Comrade Ologun.
Of course, it was too obvious to be argued, because you will recall that Yorubas will say, because when you speak, you also should be mindful of those who have an understanding of the use of words. When Aregbesola did his homecoming, you will recall that one of the statements he made at that time was the fact that in the 4 years of Oyetola, that he was often not welcomed home, that he was often not given his rightful place, and that is unfortunate that it is an opposition member, talking about the Ademola Adeleke, who is rising up to give him due security and give him what have you. That is by the way. Then you will recall the role that Analimi played in bringing down the government administration of Oyetola in the space of 4 years. Well, I don't want to talk about whatever political shenanigans happened between them. That's between them. But at least what is in the public domain are the different press conferences, the different meetings that were held at the top office, where there's nothing else that Analimi does but to denigrate the personality and the government of Oyetola. And as a member of TOP, which was led by B. Adelowo and the rest of them, the former speaker, Najim Salam, and the rest of them. And then towards, very close to the election, Analimi decamped to PDP. So it's like he was laying a template for destruction of the party to which he belonged. And when he felt he has done the yeoman's job in that party, he jumped ship, joined the PDP, and immediately was made the deputy director of the campaign for Ademola Adeleke. And we know how the rest panned out. But in the case of B.E. Odunlade, B.E. was not in the open for any denigration, so to say, against Oyetola. Neither did he decamp to the PDP. So if you saw a man that didn't officially decamp to the opposition party PDP, making the commissioner list, then you begin to ask, is it government of unity? Well, if it is government of unity, how many other people were picked from other political parties to form the cabinet? So that means there is a working relationship between Aregbesola''s led top and the PDP to have called for an emergence of a B. Odunlade who didn't officially decamp to the PDP, making that commissioner list. So I think that is not hidden. It's too clear for the eyes to see.
Alhaji Adeoti, let me come to you with this. Nigerians, we are so politicians, even at the national level, it's always been that when it comes to screening time, Alhaji Adeoti, just take a bow and go. What do we expect? What should we expect from the set of commissioner nominees that have been sent to the House of Assembly? Of course, they're all from the same, majorly, they're all from the same party. Should we look at, just take a bow and go? Or now that portfolios have not been attached to their name, what should the screening look like at this moment in time?
There will be no screening. What is there to screen?
Are we looking at just take a bow and go here again?
I mean, we have a speaker who was handpicked and installed by the governor. And it's in the open. So it's not like everybody knows it's either Lady or the other man that's supposed to be the speaker from the central. The governor, he explained his preference to them. And understandably, they all agreed. Don't get me wrong, Egbedu represents the youth. I like the demographic that he represents. He's a fine gentleman. I respect him. I'm just saying. If you look at the background that's preceded his emergence as a speaker, and the fact that most of the people that were picked are directly or indirectly leaders of the PDP, who probably handpicked most of the people in the House of Assembly or at the minimum endorsed them. Reverend Bumijenyo, we've been friends from way back. He came home from England. I've known him for about 14, 15 years now, if I'm not mistaken. Then he later became, I believe, the senatorial leader of PDP, very close to the governor. Alhaji Gani Olaoluwa is a big brother from Osogbo here. So we always anticipate he did well as a local government chairman, even though he has his own X and O's. But the point is, do you think really any House of Assembly member can look into the eyes of these two gentlemen I just mentioned, or their peers who are on the list? I'm very familiar with a lot of people on that list. And I'll tell you what, at least 10 of them represent that catchment of leadership in the PDP. So as a Yoruba person, and the way the game is played even universally in the so-called United States, you don't look up to your leader and then you start perusing them or questioning them beyond the surface. So when I say there is no screening, I mean, it's self-evident. There will be, whatever screening needs to take place must have happened prior to the emergence of the list.
Ologun, there are instances whereby some towns like Ologun, Ile-Ife, Osogbo have two names on that list. What happens to the other towns that are not represented amongst these people? What do you think? Do this set of people, do they merit it, or it's just one of those, hey, I want him there?
It's not a question of merit. It's about, I keep hammering on the fact that Demola Adeleke, in the choice of his commissioners, is a lawbreaker. And that is because you don't sacrifice the provision of the law on the altar of political correctness. Whatever his choice is in the list of the commissioners is politically correct, because that is the decision of the party and himself as the head of the administration. But you don't sacrifice the provision of the rule of law at the expense of political correctness. The law is clear. Just like it's just like the federal government or the president of the nation failing to appoint a minister from any state of the federation. You know that heads will roll and tongues will work. You can decide to enlarge your cabinet and pick 2, 3 from one state, but there must be no state of the federation that would not be represented in cabinet. The same way, in the interest and the provision of the law of federal character, the same way you should ensure that there must be at least one person from each of the local government of the state represented in the cabinet. That is why, for example, even if you decide that we have 30 local governments in Osun and you have a 25-man list, so there's no way each local government should be represented, then you take it on by looking at the federal constituency. Okay, I want to pick 3 per federal constituency, or I want to pick 2 per federal constituency, so that there will be a reflection. But in a situation whereby almost an entire federal constituency do not have representation, and then you have, I think, about 2 from Ila, you have 3, even though they are saying it is 2, with due respect to Dr. Adeoti, even though Osogbo has 3 and they are claiming it is 2, that is on one catchment having 3, Ologun is having 2, Ede and Negbedore is having 3. In the cabinet where places like Ifelodun or Orolu do not even have a single representation, where the whole of Ikirun and that axis do not have anybody represented in the cabinet, then you begin to wonder, is if it is about competence, are you saying there are no competent hands in these overlooked areas of the state? There's no way you can't find competence in the world. I keep saying that. Forget about sentiment of a tribe or identity. There is nowhere in the world that there is no competence. So if you choose to overlook, there has been argument, maybe because Ikirun has a member of the House of Rep, doesn't Ila have a senator? Is that not where Tajagola is from? And you still went ahead to pick his sister, and you still went ahead to pick Bumijen, you're from the same Ila. Do we not have a Gangaria from Osogbo? If it's about having National Assembly representation, we don't have a Gangaria from Osogbo where you are having 3 other persons in the cabinet. So there's not been any justification they have tried to advance forward that has not been faulted. But I think it is not good enough that in the choice of commissioners to be, you sidetrack some part of the state. That in itself is a break of the provision of the federal character law, and I think it does not look too good. And that's why you've already been seeing communities and towns issuing press statements, addressing press conferences about why do we have to be regulated even when we gave you so number of votes, even when we did this and all that. So I want to believe, and people have been calling for a review. I doubt if there is going to be any review. Adeleke will not record that list from the State Assembly to put in new ones or remove anyone. And I don't think there will be a supplementary. The best that we can have a supplementary is maybe another 25 that I'm aware or have been informed that they are trying to take back to the Assembly as special advisors and senior special assistants. But those are not cabinet members. So you cannot deny people the right to sit in cabinet for somebody from them to decide their own fate and then begin to give them second fiddle. And let me quickly speak to, I'm very glad that Dr. Adeoti wasn't partisan in any way in his analysis. I don't see a robust engagement of these commissioners at the House of Assembly, because the question is, what is the pedigree of even those that are in the House of Assembly? You cannot give what you don't have. If you don't have people of high pedigree, people of high knowledge, people who have traversed their choice of specialization and have excelled in it, if you don't have such many in the House of Assembly, what questions are they going to ask the commissioner nominees? Especially when some of them are stooges or they are picked by these same leaders to be members of the Assembly. So how do you tell your father that to defend a certificate? So I think for us, I just hope that Osun State will rise above these shenanigans and will not have it worse than we have ever had it.
All right, because I've just been hearing we have to go, but I'm going to quickly just ask Alhaji Adeoti, now that these commissioner nominees have been put in place right now, eventually if they come out here, will there be a peak in the economy, social-political economy of this state? Do you think at least that will come up?
Well, it's very difficult to judge what has not happened. You know, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
But it's crystal clear that the nominees are within the kitchen cabinet of the Adeleke family, political family, which is understandable. But what I do foresee, outside of what Dr. Ologun said, whereby they are going to make some amendments in the list of the special advisors, even though they are not commissioners. I think by the time this administration gets to 2 years, going to the third year of probably trying to get a second term, a lot of, they are going to make some movements of taking away some commissioners from certain local governments, like from Osogbo area where we have 3, like Ila where they have 2. They probably drop 1 or 2, 2 or 1, so as to appease people in other areas. But if they don't do that, if they are doing this for all politics, I think it will be very detrimental to their opportunity to win the next time.
Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you most sincerely. Our time is fast spent. Alhaji Adeoti, I know we'll find a way around it. We'll probably come back and we'll do quite a whole lot of discussion. I'd like to thank you most sincerely for your insightful analysis all the time I have you, either on radio or here. And I told her, Ologun, the last time I saw him, he wasn't this big.
He has been to Abuja.
I was like every other state.
ABS said he's not a politician. I was just giggling. He's a politician.
Thank you.
A shrewd one.
Thank you most sincerely.
Thank you very much for having me.
And to my very amazing viewers, thank you most sincerely for being there with us. I'll be back again tomorrow. Tunde IDOWU is my name. On behalf of the entire transmission team, good morning.
James Ajibolaige was a lawyer who obtained his first degree in classics from Nigeria's premier University of Ibadan. Born September 13, 1930, the orator and the polyglot spoke impeccable English, French, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba languages. His fine diction placed him among classical orators and public speakers like Cicero, the Roman orator. This attribute earned him the prefix Cicero of Esauke. He authored Kaduna Boy, an autobiography, Detainee's Diary, Constitution, and the People, among 6 other books. Bolaige was a colorful politician, elected governor of Oyo State in 1979 and appointed a federal minister in 1999. He was a pioneer founder of Afenifere, the Yoruba social, cultural, and political group. He invested his political sagacity to propel the group to the height of political leadership and decision-making in the southwest of Nigeria. Bolaige was assassinated on the 23rd December 2001. His murderers are yet to be apprehended till today. Western Spring Television, identifies Bola Ige as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts